In the gleaming garage of a luxury building, an elderly black man was blocked, mocked, and violently attacked by a security guard who judged him by the color of his skin and the clothes on his back. They thought he was nobody. Prepare for a shocking twist of fate. The gleaming, polished facade of the Sterling Heights luxury apartments shimmered under the afternoon sun, a beacon of exclusivity in the bustling cityscape. Its private parking garage, a cavernous space usually reserved for high-end vehicles, was quiet save for the soft hum of ventilation. An elderly black man dressed in unassuming, well-worn clothes that spoke of comfort rather than ostentation approached the entrance on foot. His steps were deliberate, unhurried, reflecting a quiet confidence that seemed almost at odds with his humble attire. Before he could even reach the automated barrier, a sharp, uninvited voice sliced through the silence. "Hey, old man. Where do you think you're going?" A young security guard, barely out of his teens, emerged from his booth, his chest puffed out, a scowl already etched on his face. He was new, clearly eager to assert his authority. His uniform, stiff and pristine, seemed to give him an exaggerated sense of power. He blocked the man's path, his stance aggressive. The elderly man paused, a faint, almost imperceptible smile playing on his lips. He looked at the young guard, his eyes holding a depth that spoke of countless experiences. "You must be new here," he said, his voice calm and even, tinged with a slight amusement. "I live here." The guard stared blankly for a second, then erupted in a fit of scornful laughter. It wasn't genuine amusement, but a loud, derisive cackle designed to belittle. "A black man like you? Owning an apartment here? That's rich. You've got to be kidding me." His tone was thick with a dismissiveness that suggested the very idea was an affront to his perception of reality. He didn't just disbelieve, he found the notion utterly preposterous, insulting even. The veteran's calm demeanor remained unbroken. He simply raised an eyebrow, his gaze steady. "And why not?" he asked, his voice still gentle but now carrying an undeniable edge of challenge. "Just because you can't doesn't mean others can." The question hit the guard like a physical blow. He visibly stiffened, his confident smirk faltering. His jaw clenched and his eyes narrowed in annoyance. He had no immediate retort, the veteran's simple logic rendering his prejudice momentarily speechless. His face flushed with a mixture of embarrassment and anger. "What do you do? Where are you from?" The questions tumbled out, sharp and demanding, an attempt to regain control, to categorize and dismiss the man before him. "I'm a veteran," the older man stated, his voice firming, "and I live in apartment 10A. He stood his ground, his posture unwavering, his gaze direct. There was no wavering, no hint of deception in his voice. The guard scoffed, a renewed wave of laughter bubbling up, louder and more obnoxious than before. "Apartment 10? You've got to be lying. A veteran? And apartment 10? Do you even know what that means? Floor 10 is reserved for the owner of this entire building, old man. Don't you know anything?" He looked the veteran up and down, his eyes raking over the unassuming clothes, the dark skin, a sneer twisting his lips. His disdain was palpable, radiating off him in waves. "Get out of here, now," he spat, his voice rising, laced with an aggressive threat. "I wouldn't hesitate to rough you up." His words were a blatant challenge, a clear crossing of the line from verbal abuse to physical intimidation. The veteran's eyes held steady, meeting the guard's furious gaze. His calm resolve was unwavering, a quiet strength that seemed to infuriate the guard even more. "I'm not leaving," he replied, his voice still measured. "This is my home. If you don't believe me, call your manager to confirm." That calm, unwavering defiance was the final straw. The guard's face contorted in a mask of pure rage. His patience, already thin, snapped completely. He didn't bother with another word, his primitive anger taking over. With a furious roar, he swung his fist, a wild, uncontrolled punch aimed directly at the veteran's face. The impact was brutal. The older man stumbled backward, the force of the blow sending him crashing to the polished concrete floor. A sharp gasp of pain escaped his lips. His head hit the hard ground with a sickening thud. Blood welled up from a cut on his lip, staining his chin and dripping onto his simple shirt, a stark crimson against the dark fabric. He lay there, still and silent, a victim of unprovoked prejudice and unchecked aggression in the very place he called home. The serene quiet of the luxury garage was shattered by the brutal reality of the attack. The elderly man lay still on the cold concrete of the luxury garage, the metallic tang of blood filling his mouth. His injured lip throbbed, a sharp, physical pain that was almost secondary to the sting of the blatant disrespect he'd just endured. Above him, the young security guard, his chest still heaving with a mix of adrenaline and self-righteous fury, loomed. He looked down at the fallen veteran, a twisted smile playing on his lips, completely devoid of remorse. That's what you get for not leaving, old man, the guard spat, his voice echoing harshly in the otherwise quiet space. Are you going to leave now, or do you want more? He taunted, his eyes glinting with a dangerous superiority as if the veteran's battered state was proof of his own rightful authority. He clearly expected immediate submission, a broken spirit to match the bleeding lip. But the veteran simply watched him, his gaze unyielding, a silent accusation in his eyes. He made no move to get up, perhaps unable to, perhaps refusing to give the guard the satisfaction. His stillness only seemed to ignite the guard's frustration further, making him bolder, louder. Just then, the sharp, hurried footsteps of another man cut through the tense silence. The rhythmic thud of the punch and the guard's raised voice had carried further than intended. The building manager, a stern-faced man with a no-nonsense demeanor, rounded the corner, his eyes widening in shock at the sight before him, a well-dressed security guard standing over an elderly black man bleeding on the floor. What in the world are you doing? The manager's voice boomed, a mixture of shock and outrage. He rushed forward, immediately dropping to one knee beside the fallen veteran, his hands gently reaching out to help. He paid no mind to the guard, his sole focus on the man who lay injured. "Sir, are you all right?" he asked, his voice filled with genuine concern. The young guard, his face still flushed with anger from the confrontation, quickly shifted his expression to one of sycophantic deference. He wiped the triumphant smirk off his face and adopted a falsely humble tone, eager to present himself in the best light. "Boss, it's nothing. I was just doing my duty," he began, his voice dripping with faint diligence. "This man here," he kept insisting, "he lives in the building. He wanted to just walk right in." He gestured dismissively at the veteran, his eyes filled with contempt that he couldn't quite hide, even when trying to impress his superior. "And look at him, boss. A black man, dressed like he just rolled out of bed in the countryside. How could someone like him possibly own an apartment here? It's ridiculous." He let out a condescending chuckle, expecting the manager to join in, to validate his prejudiced assumptions. What's even funnier, the guard continued, emboldened by the manager's initial silence, misinterpreting it as agreement. He even claimed he's a veteran. "Can you believe the nerve? A black veteran owning a place here? Ha!" He puffed out his chest, a self-satisfied grin spreading across his face. "You see, boss, I've got a good eye for people, don't I?" He looked at the manager expectantly, a proud, smug gleam in his eyes, completely oblivious to the silent fury that was steadily building in his manager's gaze. The air grew heavy, thick with the manager's rising indignation, a storm about to break. The manager's hand, which had been gently supporting the injured veteran, suddenly tightened, not in anger at the veteran, but in a quiet, simmering rage directed at the guard. He looked at the young man, his eyes burning with an intensity that made the guard's smug grin falter and die. "You really think you're clever, don't you?" The manager's voice was dangerously low, a stark contrast to the guard's previous bluster. He slowly helped the veteran to his feet, guiding him gently towards a nearby bench. Once the elder man was settled, the manager turned back to the guard, his face a mask of controlled fury. "Listen closely, because this is going to be the most important lesson you ever get in life." The guard, still basking in the glow of his supposed good eye for people, scoffed, a nervous laugh escaping him. "What are you talking about, boss? I'm just telling it like it is. This guy's just some old..." The manager cut him off, his voice suddenly sharp, slicing through the air like a whip. "You're telling me you just assaulted the owner of this entire building?" The words hung heavy in the air, echoing in the cavernous garage. The young guard's face, a moment ago filled with arrogant confidence, drained of all color. His jaw dropped and his eyes, wide with disbelief, stared at the manager, then frantically shifted to the seemingly ordinary elderly man on the bench who now simply watched them with a weary, knowing expression. You're joking, right, boss?" the guard stammered, a desperate, hollow laugh bubbling up. "This isn't funny. This is a bad joke." He tried to backtrack, to process the impossible information, his mind scrambling for an explanation. The idea of this man, the one he had just beaten, being the owner, shattered his entire prejudiced worldview. "Do I look like I'm joking?" The manager's voice was ice cold, every word a hammer blow. He pointed to the veteran who, despite his bleeding lip, held himself with an undeniable presence that was now apparent to all. "This man is not just some old black man. This is Mr. Elias Vance." The manager paused, letting the name sink in. It was a name synonymous with quiet wealth and immense influence in the city's business circles, though Mr. Vance rarely sought public attention. "He's a decorated war veteran," the manager continued, his voice laced with pride and anger. "He fought bravely for this country while you were still in diapers. After peace was declared, he went back to his roots, built his business from the ground up, and developed it into what it is today, including the very ground you stand on right now. The guard visibly recoiled, every word a fresh stab of horror. His face was a contorted mess of shame and terror. The good eye for people he had boasted about had just proven him a fool, a bigot, and a violent assaulter. I hired you out of pity, the manager continued, his voice devoid of sympathy now. I saw your resume, your lack of experience, and I thought I'd give you a chance. I thought you had potential. But your actions today, your utterly backward and racist mindset, prove you are not fit to work here. You are not fit to protect anything, let alone people. The manager's voice rose, a clear, authoritative command. Get out. Now. You're fired. The guard's world collapsed. He swayed on his feet, his bravado utterly evaporated. He fell to his knees, not out of respect, but out of sheer desperation and the crushing weight of his colossal mistake. No. Please, boss, no, he cried, his voice cracking, tears welling in his eyes. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. Please, I beg you, don't fire me. I need this job. I'll be unemployed again. I promise I'll never do it again. Please. He groveled, his pleas desperate and pathetic, contrasting sharply with his earlier arrogance. But the manager was unyielding. The display of prejudice, the unprovoked violence, and the utter lack of respect were unforgivable. Your apologies are worthless when they come only after you're caught, the manager stated, his voice firm and final. He gestured towards the exit, his resolve unwavering. Out. Now. The guard, seeing no hope, finally stumbled to his feet, his face etched with utter devastation, and trudged out, his once crisp uniform now a symbol of his downfall. The manager then turned to Mr. Vance, his expression softening to one of deep respect and regret. He bowed his head slightly. Mr. Vance, sir, on behalf of the entire staff and myself, I am profoundly sorry for what happened. This is an absolute disgrace and it will be dealt with severely. Mr. Vance, who had quietly observed the entire unfolding drama, simply offered a small, knowing smile. He reached out, gently patting the manager's arm. It's all right, son, he said, his voice calm, still tinged with the slight weariness from the assault, but also with an enduring grace. At least you understand. That's what truly matters. Thank you so much for listening. If you have any thoughts or opinions about this story, feel free to leave a comment below. I'd love to hear what you think. And if you enjoyed it, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to our channel to support us. Your support means the world. Thank you again.